There's a force within you that can radically transform your life, but you might be wasting it every day without even realizing it. An energy so powerful that the ancients called it vital force. Medieval alchemists considered it the key to transmutation, and Napoleon Hill identified it as the secret behind every great financial success and human achievement. This force is your sexual energy, and what you do with it determines whether you'll live as an average man or awaken the sleeping giant within you. But here's the question that should deeply disturb you. Why do you willingly surrender your most precious power to a cell phone screen? Why trade the possibility of becoming extraordinary for the empty promise of a few seconds of artificial pleasure? The answer lies buried in the deepest layers of your psyche, where primal urges govern your choices, where modern society has programmed you to be a perpetual consumer of cheap dopamine, where you've learned to confuse fleeting pleasure with true fulfillment. We live in a civilization that has turned the sacred into the profane, that has reduced the universe's creative force to a disposable commodity. You've been conditioned since adolescence to believe that masturbation is normal, natural, even necessary for health. But what no one told you is that every time you ejaculate, you're literally draining your life force, dissipating the energy that could be channeled into extraordinary achievements. It's no coincidence that history's most powerful men, from Tesla to Gandhi, from Steve Jobs to Muhammad Ali, practiced some form of sexual continence. They discovered the secret that modern society has hidden from you. Semen retention isn't repression, it's sublimation. It's not denial, it's transformation. Napoleon Hill, in his study of the wealthiest and most influential men of his time, discovered an undeniable pattern. They had all learned to transmute their sexual energy into creative energy. He realized that the human mind has 13 primary stimuli, and that sexual energy is by far the most powerful. When this energy is dissipated through frequent ejaculation, a man becomes lethargic, unfocused, mentally confused. But when this same energy is consciously redirected, it transforms into personal magnetism, mental clarity, unwavering willpower, and a presence that inspires respect and admiration. Imagine for a moment that your sexual energy is like the steam in a boiler. When you allow that steam to constantly escape through the valve of masturbation, the pressure never builds up enough to move the engine of your life. But when you keep that valve closed, the pressure intensifies, the energy concentrates, and suddenly you have enough power to move mountains. That's the difference between a man who wastes his life force and a man who cultivates it with purpose. Modern neuroscience is beginning to validate what ancient sages always knew. Frequent ejaculation profoundly alters brain chemistry. When you ejaculate, your brain is flooded with prolactin, a hormone that induces lethargy and passive satisfaction. Your dopamine levels plummet, leaving you mentally dull and emotionally empty. Your testosterone, the hormone of achievement and ambition, is temporarily suppressed. In essence, you voluntarily transform into a diminished version of yourself. But the man who practices semen retention experiences the opposite. His testosterone levels stabilize at high levels. His dopamine becomes more sensitive to real achievements, not artificial stimuli. His mental energy intensifies, his ability to concentrate deepens, and his personal magnetism becomes palpable. He doesn't need to prove his masculinity through compensatory behaviors, because he genuinely feels powerful from the inside out. This power isn't an esoteric fantasy. It's a physiological and psychological reality that can be measured and observed. Semen isn't just a reproductive fluid, it's an extraordinary concentration of vital nutrients, zinc, magnesium, complex proteins, hormones, neurotransmitters. When you retain these substances instead of expelling them, your body reabsorbs and redistributes them, nourishing your brain, strengthening your nervous system, intensifying your physical vitality. It's as if you're constantly recharging your life battery instead of draining your energy. But the transformation goes far beyond the physical. Semen retention awakens dormant aspects of the male psyche, archetypes that have been suppressed by modern culture. The inner warrior emerges, not the violent soldier, but the disciplined man who has conquered himself before attempting to conquer the world. The magician awakens, the one who understands that true magic is the ability to transmute lower energy into higher manifestation. The king reveals himself, not the tyrant who dominates others, but the sovereign who governs his own impulses with wisdom and purpose. This journey of sexual transmutation is in fact an alchemical journey. You are literally turning lead into gold, converting animalistic impulses into divine expressions. The sexual desire that once controlled you now becomes fuel for your creativity, your ambition, your leadership ability. The energy you wasted on empty fantasies now fuels grand visions and concrete plans. The time you wasted on digital escapism is now invested in building the empire of your life. But herein lies the deepest paradox. To truly master your sexual energy, you must first delve into your shadow and confront the demons that drive your compulsion. Excessive masturbation is rarely about sex, it's about escape. Escape from anxiety, boredom, loneliness, fear, inadequacy. It's an emotional anesthetic that you repeatedly apply to the wounds of your soul, creating a vicious cycle where the medication itself becomes the disease. When you decide to stop masturbating, you're not just changing a behavior, you're declaring war on the weaker aspects of your personality. You're choosing to confront your feelings instead of numbing them. You're deciding to build real strength instead of seeking instant gratification, and in this process of confronting your own weaknesses, you develop an inner strength that becomes the foundation of all your future achievements. The first few days of semen retention are like crossing a desert. Your body and mind, addicted to the regular release of neurotransmitters, protest violently. You experience irritability, restlessness, and intensified sexual energy that seems directionless. But this isn't a sign that you should give up, it's a sign that the transformation is beginning. The energy that was once wasted is now seeking new channels of expression, and it's up to you to consciously direct it. This is where the philosophy of Napoleon Hill becomes crucial. He taught that sexual energy should be transmuted through clear goals, intense visualization, and persistent action. When you feel sexual energy building up, instead of succumbing to the urge to release it through masturbation, you channel it into your most important projects. You use this energy to work harder, to study with more focus, to exercise with more vigor, to create with more passion. Sexual transmutation isn't forced sublimation, it's conscious redirection. You're not denying your sexual nature, you're elevating it to a higher expression. The same drive that would lead you to seek instant gratification now drives you to build something lasting. The same energy that would make you waste time on fantasies now fuels the materialization of your dreams into reality. And then something extraordinary begins to happen. Your presence becomes magnetically different. People start to notice an indefinable quality in you, an intensity, a confidence, a silent strength that can't be faked. Your gaze becomes more piercing, your voice more authoritative, your posture more commanding. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're simply emanating genuine power. This transformation happens because you've stopped leaking your vital essence. Imagine a cup with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much water you pour in, it will never be full. But when you plug the hole, the water quickly accumulates until it overflows. Your sexual energy is exactly like that. When you stop compulsively ejaculating, your life force accumulates until it overflows into all areas of your life. Entrepreneurs report that during periods of semen retention, their decisions become more assertive, their negotiations more effective, their leadership more natural. Artists discover that their creativity flows with an intensity and originality they haven't experienced in years. Students notice that their concentration deepens, their memory strengthens, their ability to absorb complex information multiplies. But the most impressive is the transformation in the relationship with yourself. The man who practices semen retention develops a fundamentally different relationship with pleasure. He learns to find satisfaction in real achievements instead of artificial gratification. He discovers that he can experience states of ecstasy through creation, achievement, overcoming challenges, personal growth. Pleasure ceases to be something he desperately seeks and becomes something that emerges naturally from a life well lived. This change is profoundly liberating because it breaks the psychological dependence on instant dopamine. When you no longer need external stimuli to feel good, you become truly emotionally self-sufficient. You are no longer at the mercy of your compulsions, no longer a slave to your impulses. You become the master of your own neurochemical destiny, and if you're wondering how to apply these principles to your own life, if you're feeling a spark of curiosity ignite within you, then you've already begun to awaken, but awakening is only the first step. The true transformation happens when you commit to the journey, when you decide you deserve more than a life of mediocrity fueled by cheap pleasures. That's why I created this channel, to be your guide on this journey of personal transmutation, to share not only knowledge but practical wisdom tested by thousands of men who have chosen the path of excellence. If you feel that there is something greater waiting for you, if you are tired of wasting your potential, if you are ready to discover what you are truly capable of, then subscribe to this channel now and hit the bell, because the content I share here is not entertainment, it's ammunition for the most important war of your life, the war against your own mediocrity, and men who win this war don't need superpowers, they become superpowers. The journey of semen retention is also a journey through your own deepest psychological patterns. When you remove the escape valve of masturbation, you are forced to confront the emotions, thoughts, and impulses you would normally avoid. Anxiety that you medicated with orgasms now demands that you develop real coping strategies. Boredom that you masked with sexual stimulation now drives you to find genuine purpose. Loneliness that you tried to fill with fantasy now motivates you to build authentic connections. This confrontation with your own psyche is uncomfortable, but it is precisely this discomfort that forges inner strength. Every time you feel the urge to masturbate and choose to do something productive instead, you are literally rewiring your brain. You are creating new neural pathways that associate pleasure with real achievement instead of artificial gratification. You are training your reward system to respond to elevated stimuli, instead of seeking the path of least resistance. This neurological recalibration has profound effects on all areas of your life. Your relationship with money transforms because you develop the ability to delay gratification, the most important skill for building wealth. Your relationships deepen because you're no longer seeking validation from others that should come from within. Your career accelerates because you have the energy and focus to dedicate yourself fully to your most important projects. But perhaps the most significant transformation is in your relationship with women. The man who doesn't waste his sexual energy through masturbation develops a masculine presence that is naturally attractive. He's not desperate for female validation because he feels complete within himself. He doesn't objectify women because he's not constantly sexually frustrated. He interacts with the opposite sex from a position of strength and abundance instead of lack and need. This change is almost instantly perceptible. Women intuitively sense when a man is in control of his sexual energy. They are drawn to the emotional stability, the quiet confidence, the contained intensity that emanates from men who practice continence. It's not that these men are more physically handsome, they simply radiate a quality of presence that is magnetically attractive. Ancient Chinese Taoists understood this profoundly. They taught that Jing, the vital essence contained in semen, was the basis of all physical, mental, and spiritual energy. Practices like Qigong and Tai Chi were developed specifically to cultivate and circulate this energy instead of wasting it. The Taoist masters who lived for over 100 years with extraordinary vitality were invariably practitioners of semen retention. In the Indian tradition, the concept of Brahmacharya, literally walking with Brahma, always included the preservation of seminal energy as an essential component. Yogas discovered that when sexual energy is redirected upward through the chakras, it transforms into Kundalini, a spiritual force that can awaken extraordinary states of consciousness. This isn't mysticism, it's the practical application of energetic principles that modern science is only beginning to understand. Even in the West before the sexual revolution of the 1960s, continence was considered an essential masculine virtue. Boxers like Muhammad Ali practiced sexual abstinence before important fights because they knew that semen retention increased their aggression, focus, and physical stamina. Artists like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci channeled their sexual energy into works of art that continue to inspire humanity centuries later. The difference between these extraordinary men and the average modern man wasn't natural talent, it was sexual discipline. They understood that sexual energy is the source of all human achievement, and that wasting it through indulgence is like burning money to stay warm for a few minutes instead of investing in building a house. But modern society has completely inverted this ancestral wisdom. Today you are bombarded from puberty onward with the message that masturbation is normal, healthy, even necessary. The multi-billion-dollar pornography industry has a vested interest in keeping you addicted to artificial sexual stimulation. Your vital energy becomes the product these companies sell back to you in the form of cheap dopamine. The result is an entire generation of men who reach their 30s, 40s, 50s, feeling inexplicably empty, lacking energy, lacking direction. They've achieved external markers of success, career, house, family, but internally they feel like they're operating on half the energy they should have, and they're right. They've literally drained their life force for decades through a habit that society has taught them to consider harmless. But you don't have to accept this condition as permanent. Every day you practice semen retention, you are literally regenerating your life force. You're repairing decades of neurological damage caused by pornographic overstimulation. You're recalibrating your dopamine receptors to respond to real achievements. You're rebuilding your masculinity from the inside out. This rebuilding doesn't happen overnight. Like any profound transformation, it requires time, patience, and unwavering determination. There will be moments of doubt, moments when every cell in your body seems to beg for sexual release. These are the moments that define who you truly are. They are the moments when you choose between the person you've always been and the person you can become. The average man gives in to these impulses, rationalizes his weakness, finds excuses to return to old patterns, but the extraordinary man uses these moments as fuel. He takes the sexual energy that is trying to escape and forces it through the channel of his highest goals. He transforms sexual tension into creative tension. He converts the impulse for momentary pleasure into determination for lasting achievement. And when you do this consistently, something almost magical happens. You develop what Napoleon Hill called the sixth sense, a sharpened intuition that guides you to opportunities and solutions that others fail to perceive. Your mind becomes extraordinarily clear, your vision expands, your ability to make correct decisions multiplies. You're no longer operating just in ordinary consciousness, you're accessing deeper levels of intelligence and insight. This elevation of consciousness is the true superpower of semen retention. It's not that you develop supernatural abilities, but that you finally access capacities that have always existed within you, but were being constantly drained through sexual dissipation. It's like you've lived your entire life with your car's headlights half dimmed, and suddenly you discover how to turn them on full blast. The energy that accumulates through semen retention isn't just quantity, it's quality. It's a more refined, more concentrated, more directed energy. It's the difference between a bucket of lukewarm water and a jet of pressurized steam. Both are made of the same substance, but one can move machines while the other can only fill a container. When you learn to cultivate this refined energy, you develop a presence that naturally influences those around you, not through manipulation or persuasion tactics, but through the magnetic force of a man who is completely in control of himself. This presence is subconsciously perceived by everyone who interacts with you. Colleagues sense your natural leadership, clients instinctively trust you, even strangers on the street show deference without knowing why. This personal magnetism is perhaps the most tangible effect of sexual transmutation. When you conserve your vital energy instead of squandering it, this energy accumulates in your energy field like a charged battery. People can sense this charge even if they can't articulate what they're perceiving. They simply know that there's something different, something powerful, something attractive about your presence. But most importantly, is the effect this transformation has on your own relationship with yourself. When you prove to yourself that you can master your most primal urge, you develop a confidence that is literally unshakable. You know on the deepest level of your being that you are capable of conquering any challenge life throws your way. After all, if you can win the hardest battle, the battle against your own impulses, then what external force could truly defeat you? This confidence becomes the foundation upon which you build all other aspects of your life. Your business thrives because you make decisions with absolute conviction. Your relationships deepen because you don't need external validation to feel complete. Your health improves because you have the discipline to maintain habits that serve your long-term well-being. Your wealth grows because you can delay gratification and make investments that multiply over time. In essence, semen retention becomes the master skill that positively influences all other areas of your life. It's like learning to play the piano. Initially, it requires intense concentration, but eventually, your skills transfer to other activities that require coordination, discipline, and precision. But here's the secret that few have understood. True sexual transmutation isn't about suppressing desire. It's about elevating it. It's not about becoming asexual, but about becoming sexually sovereign. You're not denying your masculine nature, you're refining it to its highest expression. The man who has truly mastered his sexual energy doesn't avoid women. He naturally attracts them through his centered presence. He doesn't fear intimacy. He experiences it with a depth that sexually dissipated men will never know. He doesn't repress passion. He channels it into creations that benefit not only himself but the entire world. This is the difference between neurotic repression and conscious sublimation. Repression creates pathological tension that eventually explodes destructively. Sublimation transforms lower energy into higher expression, creating a virtuous cycle where each act of discipline increases your capacity for even greater discipline. And when you reach this level of mastery over yourself, you discover something surprising. The power you sought externally always existed within you. The superpowers you admired in other men weren't special gifts. They were simply the natural result of preserving and transmuting the vital force that every man possesses, but that few learn to cultivate. This is the invitation I extend to you now. Stop squandering the most precious treasure you possess. Stop trading your unlimited potential for limited pleasure. Begin today the journey that will transform you from an ordinary man into a force of nature, not because you were born special, but because you chose to become special through conscious discipline and the intentional transmutation of your most powerful energy. The world is waiting for the extraordinary man you can become, and that man already exists within you. He's just waiting for you to stop draining your vital force and begin cultivating it with the sacred purpose it deserves. The choice is yours. The power has always been yours. Now you know how to access it.